historic. I did want to just clarify that when they came to the preliminary meeting, they were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making changes to the existing home, but it came out during the preliminary meeting that they wanted to proceed with demolition. And so this application formally is requesting for the preliminary meeting. They were planning on just making Is the applicant for 957 on here?
Yes, we're here.
You have 10 minutes to speak.
Sure.
Please state your name and address.
Sure. So this is Justin Therick and Kate Campbell with Bow Clowney Architects. And we're here representing Megan and Brandon Stokes for 957 Pitt Street. And as was mentioned previously, this design submittal came before you a couple months ago, where we presented a conceptual design that was very much in keeping with what you see here. And the intent at that application was to keep the existing structure, although significantly alter it. And the design was very similar to what you see here today. During that process, we learned that the building, in fact, is going to be more expensive to rehab the existing structure, given the extent of the renovations being proposed. And therefore, we've transitioned to a new build on the site with a demolition that was previously approved in an earlier application of the existing structure. So along with that, the basic differences from what you've seen last time to this application is a slight increase in ceiling height on the ground floor and a slight increase in roof height on the second level. And on the main level, yep. And so, you know, our approach to this home has been consistent from the conceptual design to final, which is we've tried to keep it very much in the historic pattern of the old village with a well-appointed and well-proportioned porch that runs across the front of the home. If you look at the streetscape, we're very much in scale and character with the houses on either side of the property. And the home is largely in the same position as to what we presented before, which is essentially in line with the other houses on either side of the property. We are extending the front stairs approximately 3 feet 8 inches into the setback, and we've designed those stairs in a way that they basically have a brick base to them, and it really spills out into the front yard to sort of soften that change as you go up the stairs. Again, it's a very symmetrical design with 3 French doors across the front, traditional hip dormers in the middle, roof line, and very simple roof forms that organize along the sides and the rear facade. With regard to the drainage issues, we're aware of the letter that was presented by the neighbors with their concerns regarding drainage, and we're sensitive to their concerns. We're in the process of starting our drainage plan that obviously needs to be approved by the town, and certainly we're going to take their concerns into consideration. But of course, the ultimate design of that will have to be approved by the town as well. With regard to the flood elevation and the elevation of the home that we're currently presenting, our intent is to submit for building permit as soon as possible. I've exchanged emails with Joe Wan just moments before this meeting, where he was indicating that he didn't think it was realistic that we could get a permit in and have it reviewed prior to the flood maps being changed. We're not 100% sure that we agree with that. This home has been designed to be in the VE 14 flood zone, which means the bottom of the structure has to be flood +1 or 15 feet. And that's why we're currently showing the first floor at 16 foot 6 inches. As was mentioned earlier, essentially the existing grade of the home right now is about 6 feet. We're proposing to bring approximately 8 to 10 inches of just general site grading fill into the bottom of the slab at that point. And this elevation allows the home to have a drive under capacity for parking. And it's very much in keeping with both homes on either side. Under the building code and under FEMA, we can't really lower the house any lower based off of VE 14 flood zone. And we would like to submit for building permit as soon as possible. So I think our general approach is that we would like to try to submit for VE 14. If for some reason the building department says that we cannot do that, and we have to submit for permit under the new flood requirements, which the timing of this seems a little confusing and difficult because we're all working on assumptions of schedules versus what we're currently designing to. But at that point, we have another issue, which is right now the limb wall line, which signifies a coastal A, cuts through the property as well, which that triggers basically being treated like a VE zone as well, where the bottom of the structure would need to be above base flood +2 in an A zone. The other thing that we're reading here is that under the old Village Historic District guidelines is that the height of the foundation is a recommendation. And so regardless, in order to preserve the ability to park under the house in a VE zone, which it currently is, or a potential AE zone in the future, we would still like to have the board consider approving our finished floor at the 16'6" elevation, which may allow us a little bit of room to also bring in a little bit more fill and properly deal with the drainage on the site and still be able to park under the home. And just for reference, I believe the center of the road is at elevation 7.5. So again, the current elevation on the site is elevation 6. And so we're still requesting approval with the elevation of 16'6".
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or delve into any specifics about the design.
Is there, this is the opportunity for public comment on this application. Doesn't look like there's anybody. Do you want to close the public comment?
Let's close the public comment on 957 Pitt Street and proceed to the next item at 218 Central Street.
Well, we need to talk.
Pardon me?
If the commission has any questions for the applicant, and then we need to make a motion.
Excuse me. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant concerning 957 Pitt?
Yes. Have you taken into consideration the fact that at 6'8" pad, you are guaranteed to get water under the house periodically? Full disclosure here, I had exactly the same elevation because I'm the house next door. You guys designed my house. My pad is at 7.5. My first floor elevation is at 17 feet. And I got to tell you, having a pad elevation of less than 7 feet would not be fun for them because the drains on that road are at 6.5 feet. And 3 times in the last 5 years, the street at our end has been flooded and water has come up out of the drains and I talked to Brandon about this the other day. Like I say, he's my neighbor. And I just think that you would be much happier going at least 7 feet on the pad. Now, I understand your issues about getting a car underneath, but I think we should probably grant you the same consideration that was given to me. And by the way, the house across the street at 966 Pitt is elevated above 8 feet. Its pad is above 8 feet. I think it's about 8.5. So I'm going to be making a recommendation that we grant a variance to allow 17-foot first floor, which will still enable you to have, your height, because you're not close to the height maximum of 40 feet, and enable you to make that decision on the pad height as your engineering survey progresses and you have greater data on it.
We would be in favor of that suggestion for sure.
Well, okay, I would like to make that a motion then, if there's no other discussion.
Is there any other discussion on this matter? Well, Mr. Carlton, go ahead and move what you wanted to move.
Yes, I would like to grant a variance to 17 feet for the first floor elevation in accordance with existing precedent on this street, and approve everything else that they have requested.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would second that motion.
All righty.
So I'm sorry, just to clarify, it would be for materials, the pool placement, the design, and then granting the 17-foot first floor while coming back with hardscaping in a separate application. That's what the motion is for, that Mr. Crossland has motioned.
Right.
And Jean has seconded.
All righty. Is that correct, Mr. Carlson? You agree with that?
Yes, because by the way, it would be also catastrophic to have a pool with 6 feet 8 once you get the backups. That would not be good.
All righty. Well, it's having heard the motion with a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The motion carries. We can proceed. To 6E to 18 Meadow Street. That.
Remember to mute your mics when you are not speaking.
All righty, we're good. All right, at 218 Center Street, let us proceed on that application for a final review to alterations to home and new pool. Who's presenting that?
So it's not historic, and the applicant is seeking a request for 1 foot 9 inches to encroach into the setback with the pool. And the application appears to meet all other design guidelines. They presented some mock-ups and pictures here with the pool materials and then paint to match the existing. And the staff recommendation would be to approve it with the condition that it meets the 6-foot pool setback. And that concludes my presentation. If the applicant is here, you have 10 minutes to speak.
Who is the applicant?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, my name is Amber Ahmet, and I'm here speaking for James and Tammy Bryan at 218 Center Street. The request is to modify the ground floor of their house. Kate, I don't see okay, there are the images. So you can see the top left shows an enclosure on that ground floor that they would like to open up. It's not structural. and you can see how the dining room above cantilevers out. We would like to square that up and replace with fixed louvers up to 3 feet, and then have operable louvers above that. You can see again in the next series of pictures the cantilevered dining room, and then how we would approach giving that a big cased opening, functioning as a cabana space for the pool that they're proposing.
Excuse me one moment. Catherine, is there any way we can make these pictures a little larger? My view of the pictures is more than half the screen is of people, whereas I really need to see the, there we go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ooh, there you go.
It looks like they're getting a little pixelated, but I think you get the idea. And you can see in the bottom left image of the existing house, they've got brick piers with some very spindly wood posts. We would replace those with an 8-inch simple box column silhouette, and then the louver screening in front. You can best see that in the bottom right 3D model image, where you see the louvers sitting on top of the 3-foot fixed louvers. So up to 3 feet, they would be fixed. Above 3 feet, they would be operable. And the idea is that they would be able to slide them open. And then the other request is they currently have an ADU on the property. The HVAC equipment is currently encroaching 1'9" into that rear setback. So the homeowner asked if we could align the pool with that HVAC equipment. In my preliminary meeting with Austin, I asked if that request had a chance of being approved. And he said, so long as I could show examples of precedent in the neighborhood where an accessory was, non-compliant for that 6-foot setback, so long as it didn't encroach more than 3 feet to the property line, then the board would perhaps consider it. So, Kate, do you have the slides that I submitted for properties in the area that look to be less than 6 feet to the property lines?
Was that part of the application that you submitted?
It was.
Okay, then it'll be up on here.
Thank you.
Whoa, I'd like to see that again. Whoa. Back up, Catherine. Right there. Oops, right there.
So this is where the applicant was asking if we could align the pool coping with that HVAC equipment.
Is there anything uglier than HVAC equipment? Or noisier?
Well, that is currently there.
So that is grandfathered in. My concern is how much land, what is the percentage of covering of buildings?
It does look like a lot. However, they're still sitting at a 35.6 impervious lot coverage.
You
What
can
about
see the
pool?
proposed here.
That includes the pool.
Seems
Well,
like
I noticed that if we can scroll down a little bit so we can see the schematic again. I see this driveway is identified as pervious.
That's correct.
It really doesn't look pervious to me. I mean, I went by it on my drive-throughs this past week, and it looks like a brick driveway to me.
It's brick, but the spacing allows for drainage. So it meets the guidelines for pervious drives, and their stairs are spaced such that they're pervious as well. And then there's a grill pad that they're proposing to the right of I don't know if you can see in the very top right corner of their patio. And they would be requesting that E-Pace spacing would allow for drainage also.
What's the spacing for pervious? What's the indication? Because I mean, I have that in my yard as well, and they're like half-inch breaks between them. So I don't know what the code is for pervious versus impervious. I'm just curious. Joe, do you know?
I do not know. That's not my, not really my expertise per se, is
Come on, Joe.
landscaping.
Catherine, I have the same concern that Robert has. I rode by my golf cart today, and those bricks are smack dab right against each other. I really have a concern as to whether they really do have that much runoff.
If it really meets the impervious definition.
Yeah, I really wonder if it does. I mean, would the homeowner be able to shed any light as to whether that rainwater does go through or if it runs off? And
So, we could, when they do apply and go through for building inspections, the 40% impervious is a guideline in the zoning code. It's something that we can tell the inspector or ask the inspector to look at, because from what I understand, when you're using pervious or requesting pervious pavers or something like that, that the inspector actually goes and looks at them and determines whether or not they are pervious. Joe, I don't know.
That would be Kara Campbell, that group.
Yeah.
The storm drainage group that handles that.
So to be able to confirm that it does meet the impervious surface requirement.
Okay, that was my only concern about that.
well, not only the driveway, but the pool being very close to the family, the homeowner behind that lot, how much water is going to be running into their yard because so much of this property is being taken up with building, pool, and driveway. Is there going to be a drainage problem for the people who live behind this property, whose property faces Pitt Street?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. I should have said this before. The applicant should be able to finish their 10 minutes, and then questions from the board can
You're
come
right.
afterwards.
Excuse me, you're absolutely right. Okay, applicant, please proceed.
So these slides that Kate is showing you now, if we could go back to, I think it was S4, Kate? So S4 was just a little neighborhood investigation of properties in the old village that were less than that 6-foot encroachment. And as stated in my preliminary meeting with Austin, he said that the board might be open to allowing the encroachment in this application if we could provide precedent. So this was a list of neighboring properties that look to be under that 6-foot threshold.
But those are not swimming pools.
No, none of these. Well, the 413 pit is a swimming pool.
Which one is that?
It's number 5. You can't see it. It's just beyond that fence, but
Yeah, but their pool, they're on the harbor. Their backyard is ocean. It's Charleston Harbor, not neighbor.
Let's have the applicant conclude their presentation, and then we can move on to questions from the commission.
Okay, it sounds like we've reached the conclusion. Again, they'd like to replace the piers and spindles that you see supporting that ground floor in exchange for fixed and operable louvers. And then they'd like to add a pool to the rear. You know, as stated, I think that we'll need to meet with the inspector to prove that the paved drive is going to meet that pervious guideline. But I'm open to other questions.
I have a concern about the pool being so close to the home that is directly behind it. Not only the drainage, lighting, what kind of light bleed are you gonna have? What is the drainage issue? Have you all addressed that?
So I believe that we will need to come up with a drainage plan once their pool design is finalized. It definitely will be lit in response to the proximity to the house. That does affect how deep a pool can be. The closer it is, the more shallow it has to be.
And then
Mr.
again,
Gallagher, that's your neighborhood. What is your comment? Jean, are you there?
I'm sorry.
Wake up, sweetie.
I'm awake.
What is your comment? Do you have a concern about a drainage, about a runoff into your driveway, into your property?
well, the drainage isn't under your purview. It's
Right.
really is there precedent for that encroachment? The visuals, the design guidelines. Let's stick to that.
So what's the staff recommendation?
The staff recommendation was recommends approval with the condition that the pool be moved to meet the 6-foot setback.
Okay, I would be willing to go with that with the consideration that the driveway be determined to meet pervious code, whatever that might be, which we don't know, but somebody does.
Shall we table the recommendation until we get more information?
That's an option too.
So are there any other questions that the commission has, or are we ready to make a motion? Sorry if you made a motion. It was breaking up, Robert. I didn't hear you.
I didn't hear you either, Robert. Were you going to move that we do something other than?
I was gonna move that we accept the staff recommendation with the consideration that it must be proven to be in compliance with the pervious, impervious regulations, which will be determined by an inspection.
With the denial for the pool being moved closer, or the pool being at the 6-foot setback?
Right, it would have to be within the 6-foot setback.
Is Lynette taking all this down? Who's taking these notes?
Jane is getting the meeting minutes.
Oh, good.
Did you need something read back?
So they have to conform to the 6-foot setback, and they have to have a determination that the driveway is in fact pervious as opposed to impervious.
Jane, would you read that, please?
We have a motion that says that the applicant would be approved with the 6-foot setback, not granted the 1.9 relief, and they would have to meet the 40% impervious surface coverage for the driveway.
Is that good, Robert?
Yep, that
Okay,
works.
I'll second the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing no discussion, let's move for the motion as made by Robert Carson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none. The motion with the changes and amendments and decision about the driveway has passed. Shall we go on to the next item on the agenda, or is there something we need to do, Kathy?
The next item on the agenda was staff approvals. So we had 105 Middle fence alteration from their previous plan, 436 Church replacing windows in kind, and then enclosing 100 square feet off the rear of their property. 135 Toomer, it's the redesigning of their driveway. 195 Bennett Hibben, install a brick walkway into the right-of-way. 133 Mary, changing the hardscape and existing fence. And if there was any questions, we
Does
can.
anyone have, is anyone willing to move that we consent those staff approval items, A, B, C, D, and E?
Yes, so moved.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that consent be approved, considered, or given to A, B, C, D, and E. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any nays? So all those items under staff approvals, A, B, C, D, and E, have been approved. On to 8, continued discussion about historic viewing site at the end of Hibbett Street.
So I was hoping that you could give me a little background on this in your discussion, since I'm just starting. What was the idea here?
All right, well, this is sort of my baby. As the ferry boats came to the foot of Hibbin Street, as well as other locations on the waterfront of Mount Pleasant, a ferry dock was built at the foot of Hibbin Street, and the trolley cars, which were so indigenous to the flavor of the village, would meet the ferry boats. They would go down Hibbin Street to take passengers over to, mainly on the old Pitt Street Bridge, to Fort Moultrie, and thence to the homes on Sullivan's Island and on to the Isle of Palms. The importance of this area is because the ferry boats and the trolley cars joined together for transportation purposes. When the Grace Memorial Bridge was completed in 1949, the ferrying of passengers was pretty much deleted, but it was still used, the dock there was still used by ferry boats for farm to market, because there were large truck farms in Mount Pleasant, and so they were still used for that for a good while. We have a lot of history on this, and it has been given to the town at some point. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I envision a platform, a viewing area of wooden boards similar to what has been placed across Sham Creek for their walkway. Very similar to that, transversing Hibbon Street and going out, say, 10 feet with storyboards about the history of the ferry boats coming and the trolley cars meeting and transporting passengers. We have plenty of proof. It's just a matter of having a grant written. And I was told at one of our meetings, I think it was last month, that a grant would have to come from the town, and engineering and transportation investigations for this to come to fruition. So there.
So I did look through, just trying to catch up before the meeting and really get on board with everything. Because we are a CLA, we do have those grants available. I would have to do some more research on how to obtain a grant. Definitely get with the transportation department and engineering and see how to make that possible. So that would be something I'd have to come back to y'all with, that kind of information regarding the CLA grants. So that would be something I'd have to come back with.
That would be excellent. We would appreciate that very much. And the platform or viewing area would not impact the marsh at all. So you don't need to worry about OCRM or any of those governmental departments.
Okay.
But many people go down there and they sit on an unattractive concrete bench, and I say, you're sitting on history? What? I say, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. And we have the Hibbon House right there on Hibbon Street, which has been so altered. The house was ripped off and those columns put up, and the lady who lived there told me about that. So we do have an area. Now, whether there'd be a concern about people parking, I don't believe so, because it's mostly walking traffic.
Okay.
Right, the ball is in your court, sugar.
Well, the more attractive you make it, the more traffic you're going to get. And I can tell you this because I live 4 houses down from the Pitt Street Bridge.
Exactly.
And they are parked all the way past my house yesterday and the day before and the day before.
Yesterday was cloudy and muggy. What the heck?
Hey, tell those people who are parking in front of my house. It's like, I don't know.
What about the people on Pitt Street who are enduring the food and music and frivolities that are taking place on the weekends? It's really getting out of hand.
Yeah, well, all I know is they're popular out there. Whatever it is, there's a lot of cars.
Okay.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, that's our taxes hard at work.
We can worry about that when it all comes to pass. Let's see how bad it's going to be, and maybe we can block off Hibbon Street.
So I'm sorry. I think now is the time where we would allow public comment if there is any. Just in case, I don't want to mess up with FOIA. So if there was anybody who wanted to speak on this item, now would be a good time.
Or we can move to our scintillating discussion on paint.
All right.
I'm ready to move on. Shall we close the discussion on
Let's
the
do it.
historic viewing area and go on to the guidelines for paint?
Let's do it.
May I open the discussion with the fact that although the Historic Mount Pleasant Old Village guidelines state we can use the historic Charleston paint guidelines. It doesn't specify where you can put these colors. In other words, as I look at the chart, I see purple, I see almost a pinky orange. I think we need to decide that and have on the guidelines that the colors on the historic Charleston color chart ought to be only used for interior colors. And then we select the more muted tones for exterior use only.
So we can't put any recommendations about interior.
We don't, all right, well then let's just discuss having the selection that I sent perhaps to you and to the other members of the commission, the muted, the more subdued tones that would have been used in the old village, because as I mentioned in an email, pigments were very expensive. People were not prone to use the colors like you might see in Williamsburg or some other towns that were more affluent. I have spoken to a gentleman who is in a historic home, and he says he's discovered his house was at one time gray, which is acceptable. But some of these brighter, more bilious colors are not appropriate for a village that was really not a wealthy area.
Yeah, I agree with you, Louisa, that in the colors of Charleston, the interior and exterior colors are commingled.
Right.
And, you know, that was something we did not take into consideration when we adopted the historical chart. And I believe you are correct in picking out the ones that are clearly appropriate. And then if people have other things they want to suggest, they can bring them to the committee.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not turning down anything. We're just saying, well, you know, you don't even have to ask us about these, but these other ones, you know, maybe we'd want to take a look at them.
Right, and I do have, Catherine, did you have that email that I sent with the selection of the colors?
Yes, I can.
Well, I named them off by the DCR number as well as the name. And if you would like to present those names and colors at our next meeting for final review and discussion and possible vote, as those would be colors that would only be used for exterior use in the historic area.
Okay, I'll read off the colors that you suggested, and then just so that everybody listening can hear that, and then as for the next agenda, we'll put that as an action item.
Okay.
To come back with that as to vote for it. The colors recommended: antique pewter, stucco creamstone, Aunt Betty's china, empire green, smokehouse, quill, Aiken ivory, garden fountain, oyster shell, pecan shell, salt marsh, trad street green, Elizabeth Street blue.
What about Confederate flannel? The DCR, that was on the soft gray DCR 055.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that one. Confederate flannel added to that list as well.
Let me see. And you got Trad Street green.
Mm-hmm.
What about pecan shell, the dark brown?
Oh, yep, I've got pecan shell.
What
Did
about
you say Charleston White?
Charleston White was not on the list.
It should be.
It should be, yes. I had that checked off. Also, quill.
Well, I have that as well.
Okay, no, 102. All righty. If you would do me a favor and send me an email with the numbers that you have, so I can check them?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a little bit hard to do with you be there and me being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll be able to put this on for the agenda for the next meeting with the list, and
Mhm.
we'll be able to vote on it then.
Good.
And these will be for exterior use, the only colors from the chart, historic Charleston chart, that are acceptable under the guidelines for exterior use.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there will be a functionality there that people can bring in other colors if they maybe are on the chart or are not. I mean, we're not saying that these are the only colors
Right.
that could ever be used for the outside colors of the
These are the
household.
only ones pre-approved.
Pre-approved, yes, but they can,
Pre-approved. Yeah.
okay, but they do have the ability to bring in any color they want but we can say, no, you can't have a red house.
Yes,
Or okay,
exactly.
Trying to avoid any boo-boos.
yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen. Are we finished, Kate? I told you Catherine or Kate, I guess Kate.
Yeah, that sounds good. That works. And so the last item, well, second to last item for discussion is the historic district expansion.
Right?
Do
I was
we?
not given any background on that. Would you enlighten me?
Well, so basically buildings, sections of the town that you think should be part of the historic district that aren't currently there. So things that come to mind, specifically churches. I don't have the map up in front of me right now, but any other properties that would you would like to expand to be part of the historic district?
I brought that up some time ago with Austin because the Friendship AME Church on Whildon Street, even though it has been bricked over, I watched them brick it over. It was the late 60s, I think it was. That should be expanded. My point is, if the Hibben House, which has been so altered, if that can be considered historic, then I think that Friendship AME Church should be looped into the district, just like St. Andrew's Anglican Church on Benning and Whildon is.
Okay. So that again would just be something I need to refresh. I can bring it back at the next meeting as an action item to include the Friendship AME Church on in the expansion.
Would you be contacting the congregation or the minister there? Would it make a difference?
I'm sure I will. Because we do have a historic marker in front of it, historical marker. The historical commission and the church actually worked to put up. So I would likely contact them, but I'll have to go through our procedures to see what my role is for that, because I'm not totally sure.
Okay, that'll be good. That'll be good. Great.
So I'll come back for next month as an action item.
For the paint in the church next
month. Church. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Kate. I mean, it's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
And you've done a wonderful job. And Jane, thank you for your magic fingers.
You are welcome.
Let's go ahead.
And Joe, God bless Joe. And Joanne, bless your heart. And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Wait, before we conclude, let's go ahead and for the items for next month, someone just go ahead and motion to bring back the paint colors, to confirm, approve the finalized paint colors for exterior for next month, and then for to expand the historic district to include the Friendship AME Church. If I could have a motion and a second and a vote.
Robert, would you do that?
Certainly, I shall make that motion.
And
What you just said.
I shall second it. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. No nays. All righty. The next meeting will take place on Monday, January 11. And I imagine we will still be on our computers.
Yes, if the numbers continue like this, I did mean to mention that earlier. We got an email from the town administrator to let us know that if we could stay virtual, that would be best to keep people safe.
I kind of like it now. Wear what you want to wear.
Yeah.
May I move that we adjourn?
Yes, indeed. Second.
Are there any discussion? Nobody wants to stay? Okay, well, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Right.
Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
See you next year.
Righto.
See you
Bye-bye.
next year.
Christmas, everyone. Have a great day.
Christmas.
Thanks,
Thank you.
ladies. All right,
Thanks,
bye.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
It'll go smoother as
Oh,
time goes
listen.
on.
This was like ice skating. You should have been here before. Oh, my